whom you have from God. You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. Glorify God in your body. Now, in 1 Corinthians 6, 19 and 20, that I just read out, we see Paul being specific. He was specifically addressing sexual immoralities among believers. Just like our society, the Corinthian society had a lot of available, accessible, and culturally acceptable and even encouraged ways to immorally indulge sexuality. Very likely, many Corinthian Christians had backgrounds rife with immorality. They had habits of thinking and behaving sexually that still affected and tempted them as Christians. Some apparently had repeatedly fallen short. More than this, they were actually rationalizing it with a common adage that we read in 1 Corinthians 6, verse 13. They would say, food is meant for the stomach, and the stomach for food. In other words, also quoting 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12, they would say, look, if the body has an appetite for food, we feed it. So if the body has an appetite for sex, we should feed it. Besides, we are free. Jesus' sacrifice made all things lawful. But Paul responded with a frank correction. Paul would say, the body is not meant for sexual immorality. And this is 1 Corinthians 6, verse 13. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. So when we become Christians, our bodies become members of Christ's body, as we see in 1 Corinthians 6, verses 15 to 17. And the very Spirit of Christ dwells in our bodies, as the Spirit used to dwell in the temple of Jerusalem. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 19. So, an implication we can draw from this is that every sexually immoral behavior a Christian engages in drags the Lord Jesus Christ into that engagement, because the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So you and I are not our own. We are Christ's. As we read in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 23. We are Christ's. In every sense, we are Christ's body, mind, and spirit. We are members of Christ's body. Our bodies are Christ's temple, and we are bond slaves of Christ, who has made us children of his Father and fellow heirs of his estate. Having discussed who owns our body, I would like to quickly speak on the subtopic, what sex is. What sex is. Sex and sexuality is a gift from God to teach us about his nature. We are created in the image of a God who exists in three persons, so tightly knot together, they are actually one being, the Trinity. Within God's being, there is no shame, no secrets. There is total trust, complete love, complete knowing, and eternal unity. Okay? Sexual intimacy for humans is a small window into this type of relationship. So the act of sex with a spouse is a moment of trust, passion, pleasure, vulnerability, and connection, unlike anything else in creation. This is why sexual betrayal and or abuse leave lifelong scars for those who have experienced such horrors. Such acts are the ultimate shattering and twisting of God's intention for these great gifts. Now, let me say this. Sexuality transcends the purely biological sphere and concerns the innermost being of the human person as such. Let me repeat that. Sexuality transcends the purely biological sphere and concerns the innermost being of the human person as such. Sexual love is truly human only if it is an integral part of the love by which a man and a woman commit themselves totally to one another unto death. This self-giving is possible only in marriage. Having seen who owns our body and what sex is, let's now go quickly into the topic proper. Why masturbation is wrong? Why? Why is it wrong? Beyond the explicit passages about lust and its harm to the human experience, as we see in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28, we must ask ourselves if masturbation aligns with the creation plan of God's intention to create intimacy, trust, love, connection, and commitments, or if masturbation detracts from God's purposes for sexual intimacy. Does masturbation cause you to draw nearer to your spouse in a way that reflects the nature of God's intimacy within the Trinity? That is of love, of trust, of unity, no shame. Or does masturbation lead to something other than God having dominion in your life? Does it lead to pornography? Does it promote fantasies, sinful fantasies, lust of the heart and eyes? It must be stated clearly that God designed sexual expression to unite a man and a woman in an intimately loving embrace that is total, faithful, free, and fruitful, and those in marriage. Indeed, the marital act is the beautiful, God-given expression whereby a man and a woman become one flesh in marriage. Genesis 2, verse 24. Consequently, masturbation is a sin against the sixth commandment because it violates the God-inscribed unbreakable bond between the love-giving and life-giving aspects of the marital act. Let me take this again. Masturbation is a sin against the sixth commandment precisely because it violates the God-inscribed unbreakable bond between the love-giving and life-giving aspects of the marital act, between the conjugal act and the procreative act. The conjugal act is a love-giving. The procreative act is a life-giving. And the two must always go together. However, masturbation violates this connection, unbreakable bond, God-inscribed unbreakable bond. Instead of the intimate and mutual self-giving that is the hallmark of the marital act, masturbation, whether within marriage or outside of marriage, is an act in which one turns selfishly inward. So masturbation is an act in which one turns selfishly inward. Indeed, masturbation is a dualistic self-indulgent activity that uses the body as a means of personal gratification instead of integrating one's gifts of sexuality, one's power of love and life into a sincere gift to another. Masturbation attempts to dualistically divorce the physical behavior we choose to engage in from shaping our self-identity, as if the former had nothing to do with the latter. Let me repeat this. Masturbation attempts to dualistically divorce the physical behavior we choose to engage in from shaping our self-identity. Masturbation fails to see that our bodies are not something we have, but are essential to who we are and how we express ourselves as human persons, as body, soul composites. Thus, the church has always definitively taught, and we always teach, that masturbation, you can see this in the CCC 2352. The church has taught that masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action, and when committed with full knowledge and complete consent, it is a mortal sin. Masturbation can be understood as self-sex, and serves no purpose outside the moment it occurs. Now, the big question is why? Most people assume something is only sinful if it harms other people. Okay? They say something is sinful only if it harms other people. And for them, masturbation is a victimless crime since it harms no other person. But is that the case? Well, assuming you do it in private, it generally hurts no one, right? Since as you know, it is a private action. Now, but there are loads of studies showing how masturbation, particularly in conjunction with pornography, straight up rewires our brains to view members of our preferred sexual attraction as objects for our sexual pleasure. Now remember, every sin has two dimensions. There's a private dimension and there's a social dimension. When we sin, we hurt ourselves as individuals and also hurt the whole body of Christ. That's why at the confessional, the priest says, through the authority of the church, so it is the collective body who welcomes you back to that which you broke by your sin. Just to mention that. In other words, even the argument that masturbation does not hurt anyone else falls flat because we cease to view other humans as humans, start seeing them as sexual objects. The reason masturbation is a sin is that it serves no procreative purpose, which is a primary purpose of our reproductive system. Now, critics will bring up a recent study that says men need to ejaculate 21 times per month to reduce their risk of prostate cancer by 31%. Okay? No, but here is the thing. This study fails to mention that prostate cancer is most common in men over the age of 65. In fact, 60% of cases are diagnosed over the age of 65, and the disease rarely occurs in those younger than 40. So we are reducing our chance by 31% when the chance is already automatically low. This is just a statistic. To try to normalize a behavior, we should be trying to reduce, if not eradicate altogether. Now, in summary, sex is intended to be an expression of love between a married man and his wife. A man and his wife. Okay? They express this love through a complete self-giving to one another in the act. Love never takes. Love never takes. Love never takes. If not, it becomes selfish. It should always be about the other person, not about me. That's love. Masturbation is the exact opposite of this. It is all about the selfish feelings one derives from the act. By the very nature of the act, masturbation turns one in on oneself. This is the opposite of love, because it is not about another person. Now, why many young people suffer from compulsive self-gratification, it is not impossible to stop. The temporary relief and feelings quickly leads to emptiness, and in many cases to shame. It is like being thirsty and trying to quench your thirst by drinking water from the ocean, which only hurts you and makes you need good water. Bad habits are not easy to stop, but they are worth it. As for the gravity of the sin, here is what the church, the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, 2352. By masturbation is to be understood the deliberate stimulation of the genital organs in order to derive sexual pleasure. Both the magisterium of the church, in the course of a constant tradition, and the moral sense of the faithful have in no doubt and have firmly maintained that masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action. The deliberate use of the sexual facility of sexual faculty for whatever reason outside of marriage is essentially contrary to its purpose. For here, sexual pleasure is sought outside of the sexual relationship which is demanded by the moral order, and in which the total meaning of mutual self-giving and human procreation in the context of true love is achieved. Okay? Now, sex ought to be so much more than mere pleasure. It is intended to be an amazing act of love between two committed people. It can be life-giving and powerful. It should be intimate and a means to receive grace. Finally, it can be a powerful opportunity to glorify God, but only if done in the proper context. Don't let sex become something less than this wonderful vision. Now, as a way of wrapping up my paper, it is not enough to speak about advice. It is also important to offer some solutions. How do we deal with the vice? A few practical tips for those who struggle with the vice, okay, are as follows. 1, to combat masturbation. 1, try to understand what makes you want to indulge sexually. Try to understand what makes you want to indulge sexually. Is it boredom? Are you bored? Is it self-hate? Is it stress? And others. Then try to prepare yourself to battle during these times. Okay? Now you must fill up the negative thoughts and lustful images with positive ones. Sacred scripture and holy images can help. 3, stay away from moments of temptation. For example, the computer, your phone, okay, being alone, watching movies with sex and all that. Stay away from those moments of temptation. They're called occasions of sin. Have a battle plan to combat those moments. Okay. 4, you must work on your spiritual life. The closer you draw to Jesus in prayer and the sacraments, the more you will conquer this problem. And 5, you need to have some kind of accountability to stop what you're doing. Be accountable for it. Have a daily or weekly or monthly stock taking. How did I battle this vice? Okay. Okay. As for whether it is healthy or not, some studies show that masturbation might help with a healthier prostate for men and have a few other small health benefits. But these are negligible. There are some reports of problems in sex with your spouse for men who masturbate frequently. Okay? Problems such as premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction at early ages, all that. Some of these are associated with masturbation. So, health-wise, there is no good reason to have a habit of masturbation. Final word. Remember, in the words of 1 Corinthians 6 verse 20, 1 Corinthians 6 verse 20, you were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father Felix. It was a very fine one. Sorry, my environment is pretty noisy, I know. So, as we usually do it every week, if you have a question, please indicate so that we can quickly go on. We have like 20 minutes more. So, please indicate if you have a question, or if you can't find the icon for indicating, you can type your question on the group and I'll read it out for Father. So if you have a question, please indicate. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel Okunola wants to speak. Please, if you have your question, indicate so that we can count. You know we have number. We have time. So, Mr. Emmanuel, you can speak. Emmanuel Okunola, you can speak. You have to tap the mic, Mr. Emmanuel. Tap the mic. That place that is written tap to speak. You have to tap it to speak because you have access to speak now.
The only question I want to ask is, Father,
yes. I can't hear you clearly, so I don't think Father can hear you clearly either. So you have to speak out.
Can you hear me now?
Speak out. If you're using earpiece, please take it away.
Okay.
Hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly now.
I just want to tell Father, for the sake of those who are not online at this moment, is it possible for Father help us to drop the PDF or the write-up on the page so that Father can go through because of those who are not online at present? Thank you. That's the question.
Okay. Irrespective of that, I don't know if Father has a PDF to drop, but we have a recorded.
Just help us to tell you.
We have a recorded. What's it called? Recorded. The class is recorded, so it will be left on the group, to be pinned to the group.
Okay.
I think, Father, you have PDF,
no problem.
right? You can share it with us, right?
Okay, yeah, sure, I do.
Yeah, so he has the PDF and he will share it with us, or he will give it to me and I'll drop it on the group for us. Please, if you have any other question, indicate. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Emmanuel, for your observation.
Hello?
So, I can't find anyone having any questions, so I would just try and ask this one. So does it imply that when married people do this act, there's nothing wrong in it? Let's take the case of let's say onanism, because in the case of masturbation, there is no, the semen is spilled for a man. So are we saying that when maybe we've reached the age of marriage and we are married, we can maybe indulge in masturbation, it's not going to be a problem?
Okay, that's a very important question because I've heard some married people tell me they come up with this argument that for them it helps their sexual life, and I've always told them that they should just sit down and reflect more and observe that actually it does not help their married life. It rather destroys them, destroys it. It takes them away so much from their partner. It breaks that intimacy, that connection that they should have with their partners. The point is that whether you are married or not, it is not morally acceptable to engage in masturbation. Okay. One couple met me once and said, she enjoys it more when her husband masturbates himself. Okay, so the intention is actually that to make him prepared or make him active for the act with her. And then I asked her the question: don't you think that what you are doing, what you are enjoying, is selfish? Because you're not actually helping the guy. You are making him touch himself so that it will become ready for the act. That is also an act of selfishness. Rather, it should be a mutual self-giving. And then I went for that to tell her that now this guy, your husband, may soon realize that he may not need you anymore for the pleasure he desires, since he can get that pleasure that way, even though of course it's a disordered pleasure. Okay, however, it is still pleasure. And so I told her this, and then she saw reasons with me why the guy should stop that. So the point is, even for married people, masturbation is not allowed. Okay, that's the point. Just like contraceptives are not allowed. No, that's a different topic anyway. But just to draw it, the whole idea of contraceptives are also not allowed for married people, whether you have HIV/AIDS or not. Okay, you're not even allowed as a man and a woman who are married. So use contraceptives. That also is the fact, whether you are married or not. The same idea goes for masturbation, because it is essentially a turning inward instead of a turning outward. It is self-gratification instead of sharing that love with others, sharing those moments of emotions with your partner, your married partner, of course, a married man and his wife, or a married woman and her husband.
So, okay, since you've established that this is not the right thing for married people, so I don't know, what do you have for those now not necessarily making it, like you said, you gave the instance of the woman that wants to see her husband masturbate, but there are women that I've read across that are married but have dildos and toys that they use to, they feel it's more so this is not a case of selfishness now, but it is more it's additional pleasure or more satisfying, but in the long run, in its end, it's also masturbation. So what would you be, maybe we meet an argument somewhere tomorrow and then the person is arguing, I'm married, I can have toys, I can use toys. Is the church also frowning against the use of toys? Because that is also masturbation.
Yeah, you know, the grand reason why some women use toys, even some guys too. These days they get sex dolls, female sex dolls, and so it's both sexes. The reason why people use these sex toys is to get sexual gratification. That too is selfish. That too is turning inward. It is a selfish act. And I know some people have come up with very serious reasons. Once, when I was in the parish, a woman came to me and said, Father, I'm tired of this marriage. I said, why? But mind you, 99% of the cases we get in the parish office on daily basis are about marriage issues. And I would say 65% of them, these marriage issues, are about sex. So it's a very serious issue. Okay, that must be mentioned. Now, the woman said, Father, my husband does not satisfy me. Does not satisfy me on bed. And I'm tempted to get these toys. Okay. And then I told her, would you rather lose your soul and enjoy pleasure on the body? Would you rather lose your soul? Would you rather say to hell with salvation? I don't care. Let me have carnal pleasure. I said, no, Father, I won't go heaven. No. I said, yes, that is the point. The fact is that a thing gives you pleasure doesn't make it right. In fact, pleasure sometimes is the opposite of sanctity. Sometimes, not always. When you indulge so much in some pleasure, it becomes a barrier to sanctity, to salvation. So the point is that, yes, and sometimes we may not find that sexual satisfaction that we desire from our married partner, from our marriage. But don't forget the ultimate goal of sex. Of course, sex in marriage, sex should always be sex in its proper idea, proper function, proper substance, proper reality, and an essence must always be in marriage. And so the goal of sex is beyond sexual, is beyond, it includes it, no doubt, but it's beyond self gratification. It's about giving yourself to the other person. The person enjoys you, and you enjoy the other person. You get the point. And so when you get toys, it is about you enjoying yourself alone. And then, mind you, marriage is more than sex. Love is much more than the sexual act. Yes, the sexual act is a way of expressing the marital love. However, the marital love is bigger than sexual acts. Don't forget it. So what can you do? You can tell your partner. Tell your partner to do better. Of course, you're not supposed to watch pornography to learn, because sometimes we fall into that. To learn it, to be better on bed, let us watch porn. No, because those pornography you are watching, I'm sure you've done something on porn, but you also emphasize it. Those things you watch as material, they are heavy material. Sometimes they use several days to act what you watch in 2 hours, in 10 minutes, and they are on drugs, and you cannot sustain it. You'll be pushed to go outside when you don't get what you watch, when you don't get it at home. So the point is this: talk to your partner. I like it this way. I like it that way. Just to mention, oral sex and anal sex are not allowed also. I know this will create confusion or some protest. Both oral sex and anal sex are not allowed. So the other ways to spice up the sexual life could be in any form. Once in a while, leave the house, go to a hotel, or go to a quiet place where just both of you are present, and explore different options. But you must talk it, communicate. I don't like it when you touch this way. I don't like it when you do it that way. Can you try it the other way? But mind you, you must rule out both oral sex and anal sex. In all that you try, these two must not be present. Yeah. But then communicate. Talk about it. You read books, ask questions, and see how you can spice up your married sexual life.
Thank you so much, Father. Thank you for your time. I don't think anyone has any questions, so we are at liberty to end the class if there's no another question. If you have a question, please. Okay, someone has a question. Okay. Okay, so OG, you can ask your question. You have to tap on the mic icon and speak.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening.
So, you said something about contraceptives, using of contraceptives, even though you are HIV positive and you probably have health conditions. And then one day, I remember I was speaking with a pharmacist on why couples buy condom and things like that, like they're in a marriage. So she was like explaining to me that a woman that she knows one day like this is basically allergic to sperm, like it irritates her, so that's why she has to use condom and is like sustaining their marriage. So my major question now is, isn't condom a contraceptive?
Condom, yes, that's the answer. Yes, condom is a contraceptive. Now, the question you just asked now would take us to another field of study, that is nullity of marriage. Of course, I know that some persons, people going into marriage as virgins, so to speak, they have not had sex before they go into marriage. But if it can be established that, one of the conditions for annulment, for nullity of marriage, is sterility. That is the impossibility of the woman or the man, for man it's called infertility, the woman is sterility. If it is established that before the marriage took place, that the man or the woman was ordinarily would be unable, would have been unable to bring about reproduction, that is a ground for annulment. And the scenario you just painted now, you just told us now, can be a ground for annulment. If the woman has severe reactions to the sperm, how would she get pregnant? How? That becomes when she can get pregnant, but then she may not want to because she reacts to it. It becomes a biological problem. And mind you, for marriage to be valid, two things are important. One, the marriage, but there are two principles of marriage, because there are several principles, but these two, they are called the two goods of marriage, or two aims of marriage. One is for unity of the partners, and two is for procreation and education of the children. If one of these two is absent, marriage will not take place. If one of these two goods is absent. So if it is established that ab initio, even before the marriage, one of the partners could not have been able to conceive or to bring about reproduction. Let's say the man has the man is impotent, for example. That is a ground for nullity. So, to your question, even in the case you just painted of the woman being reacting to the sperm, the church would still not allow for contraception. Why? The act of conjugal love and the act of procreative act must always go together. That's why abortion is wrong. That's why contraceptives are wrong. Because they tend to destroy these two. That's why masturbation is wrong as well. Every sexual act must be open to every two procreative acts. The two must always go together. It is essential. Now, the only time, let me draw this point clearly. I know many of us may not have thought about this, but let me clarify it. There's a condition. There's a case where the church may allow for the use of condom. But the usage of condom in this context is not contraceptive. No. it is rather an aid to conception. And how? Let me explain. I'm sure we all know about IVF, in vitro fertilization. The church tries to make a distinction between what the church calls heterologous IVF and homologous insemination. The first, the former is wrong, but the latter, homologous insemination, is acceptable in the church. Let me explain what that means. For some reason, some women cannot conceive. They cannot, their womb do not provide the conducive environment to fertilize, to bring about fertilization. Their womb. So what the church says is that the man's sperm can be collected, the woman's egg can be collected, and both can be placed in a tube. Now in that tube, there will be fertilization. So as soon as the zygote is formed, they transfer the zygote back to the woman's womb. And then the child grows and she puts it to bed. But how do you collect the sperm and the egg from the man and the woman? How? There are different techniques, but the common technique is the use of condom. So when they are having the sexual act, the man wears the condom, the woman wears a condom, and hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It was cracky a bit, but I can hear you.
Okay, so they collect what the man released through condom, collect what the woman released through condom, and then it's carried to the tube. But this is not contraceptive. Why? Because the aim is not to avoid life. The aim is not to stop life. In fact, the use of condom in this sense is not contraceptive. It is rather to bring about life. And mind you, it must be between the man and his wife, the woman and her husband. That's why it's called homologous. Between them, between the two of them, it's not there's no external, there's no donor outside, and it's not surrogate motherhood. You don't transfer the zygote to another woman. No, it comes back to the same woman, the wife of the man who gave the sperm. In this case, like I said, it is not contraceptive inclined. No, there's not. In fact, it is proceptive for life. But in the case of the woman who reacts to sperm, the choice says no. And even if one of the partners has HIV, with advances in science and medicine, with some retroviral drugs are able to suppress the transfer of the virus. So the partner who has the virus takes the retroviral drugs just before they go into the sexual act, and somehow the virus is suppressed. Okay. I'm not a doctor, but I've seen it over and over again. Some patients who are HIV carriers, they've done it and did not transfer the virus to their partner. Even women who are pregnant and who have the virus give birth to children who do not have the virus, who do not contract the virus from their mothers, with the use of some of these drugs. But that's the point. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Father, for your time. That will be all for today. Kenna, you have to write your question because we are past our time.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I said thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Someone has a question, but I'm sorry, he will have to write his question because we are behind time.
It seems, sorry, Mr. Marvelous, it seems my mic, or the speaker is low. I don't know what's happening.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay, I was like, thank you for your time. Someone has a question, but the person will have to write the question down, and um, you will reply in the chat because we are past time. The person didn't indicate when we still in our time. He didn't indicate before 8:45, and we can't take the question anymore. So he will have to ask the question. You did not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me draw it nearer to myself so that I will hear you clearly. It's the
Okay,
call
I
that
said
came
someone.
in. I'm sure
Okay,
made some
disrupted it, Abi.
adjustments to my
Sorry.
speaker. Yeah.
Okay, so someone has a question, but the person will have to ask the question on the group. Then you read and reply to him. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Then, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for participating actively. Thank you Ogochuku and Mr. Emmanuel for your questions. So we would meet next week again, the same time and same venue, different topic. Thank you so much, Father. Good night.
Thank you.
So
Good night.
can I please ask your question on the group? Father is there to listen. Father will send the PDF for today's class to the group too. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the age 70, 90, so she was at the age